I did my experiments that involved showing people simulated crimes and accidents and asking them questions about what they remember. In one study, we showed people a simulated accident, and we asked people how fast were the cars going when they hit each other. And we asked other people how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other. And if we asked the leading smash question, the witnesses told us the cars were going faster. And moreover, that leading smashed question caused people to be more likely to tell us that they saw broken glass in the accident scene when there wasn't any broken glass at all.
As some of you may know, self-organization is a mathematical term. It comes from the mathematical study of systems, specifically complex systems. And you know that complex systems, which are open to influences from outside themselves, capable of being chaotic and nonlinear, meaning small inputs lead to large and difficult to predict results, lead to an emergent set of properties. It just arises. You don't need to program it. And one of those properties is called self-organization. And amazingly, you can look at the mind as an embodied and relational emergent self-organizing process and understand why, if we as a human family don't shift what we're doing with our information processing, we could easily destroy life on Earth. It relates to self-organization. So let's keep our minds on that, because soon we're going to see how modern culture gets us to construct a sense of self that may actually be wrong. And not only wrong, it may be so embedded in who we think we are that we don't even know it is taking us over individually and collectively and actually killing us.
In the 1990s, we began to see an even more extreme kind of memory problem. Some patients were going into therapy with one problem, maybe they had depression, eating disorder, and they were coming out of therapy with a different problem. Extreme memories for horrific brutalization, sometimes in satanic rituals, sometimes involving really bizarre and unusual elements. One woman came out of psychotherapy believing that she'd endured years of ritualistic abuse, where she was forced into a pregnancy and that the baby was cut from her belly. But there were no physical scars or any kind of physical evidence that could have supported her story. And when I began looking into these cases, I was wondering, where do these bizarre memories come from? And what I found is that most of these situations involve some particular form of psychotherapy. And so I asked, were some of the things going on in this psychotherapy, like the imagination exercises, or dream interpretation, or in some cases hypnosis, or in some cases exposure to false information, were these leading these patients to develop these very bizarre, unlikely memories? And I designed some experiments to try to study the processes that were being used in this psychotherapy so I could study the development of these very rich false memories. In one of the first studies we did, we used suggestion, a method inspired by the psychotherapy we saw in these cases. We used this kind of suggestion and planted a false memory that when you were a kid, 5 or 6 years old, you were lost in a shopping mall. You were frightened, you were crying, you were ultimately rescued by an elderly person and reunited with the family. And we succeeded in planting this memory in the minds of about a quarter of our subjects. And you might be thinking, well, that's not particularly stressful. But we and other investigators have planted rich false memories of things that were much more unusual and much more stressful. So in a study done in Tennessee, researchers planted the false memory that when you were a kid, you nearly drowned and had to be rescued by a lifeguard. And in a study done in Canada, researchers planted the false memory that when you were a kid, something as awful as being attacked by a vicious animal happened to you, succeeding with about half of their subjects. And in a study done in Italy, researchers planted the false memory when you were a kid, you witnessed demonic possession. I do want to add that it might seem like we are traumatizing these experimental subjects in the name of science, but our studies have gone through thorough evaluation by research ethics boards that have made the decision that the temporary discomfort that some of these subjects might experience in these studies is outweighed by the importance of this problem for understanding memory processes and the abuse of memory that is going on in some places in the world.
That may actually be a construction, and the fantastic thing about it being a construction is we can deconstruct it and liberate a constructed view of the self that may be actually more accurate and more helpful to human life and life on this planet. So let's see how that would work. When you look at this conduition and construction, and you study all sorts of things, and this is in all the different books I write about this subject, so this is just a simple summary slide. It turns out that you can say what optimal self-organization is. So if one facet of the mind is a self-organizing process, you can then ask, how do you get optimal self-organization, which has 5 features. It's flexible, spells the word faces, by the way, flexible, adaptive. It has the mathematical quality of coherence, which is resilience over time. It's energized, and it's stable. This faces flow is like the flow of harmony. There's a huge amount of science behind that, but we're just going to get to the take-home message, which is if you are not doing what's necessary to promote optimal self-organization, which I'll have you consider is happening now on this planet, then what happens to the individual, to the relationship you have one-on-one, or to the family, or to the community, or to the nation, or to the entire ecosphere, is you get chaos and you get rigidity. This is straight out of math. Complex systems which don't allow optimal self-organization move towards chaos or rigidity.
If I plant a false memory in your mind, does it have repercussions? Does it affect your later thoughts, your later behaviors? Our first study planted a false memory that you got sick as a child, eating certain foods, hard-boiled eggs, dill pickles, strawberry ice cream, and we found that once we planted this false memory, people didn't want to eat the foods as much at an outdoor picnic. The false memories aren't necessarily bad or unpleasant. If we planted a warm, fuzzy memory involving a healthy food like asparagus, we could get people to want to eat asparagus more. And so what these studies are showing is that you can plant false memories and they have repercussions that affect behavior long after the memories take hold. Well, along with this ability to plant memories and control behavior, obviously comes some important ethical issues. Like, when should we use this mind technology, and should we ever ban its use? Therapists can't ethically plant false memories in the mind of their patients, even if it would help the patient. But there's nothing to stop a parent from trying this out on their overweight or obese teenager.
Then you can say the natural question is, well, then how do I promote optimal self-organization? How do I develop that flexible, adaptive, resilient, coherent way of being that's energized and stable? And it turns out there's an answer, and the answer is you differentiate and you link. And in common English terms, we'll use the term integration for how you optimize self-organization. So integration is defined in the way we're going to use it as the linkage of differentiated parts. So whether we look inside your brain and your head and study every psychiatric disorder that's ever been studied, the one finding that's been found across every disorder is impaired integration. If we look in my field, attachment research, at relationships that don't promote well-being, like with developmental trauma, it's impaired relational integration. And what does that do to the brain? It impairs the growth of integration in the brain. Why does that matter? Because integration in the brain and the whole body, in fact, is the basis for every form of regulation we have, regulating emotion, mood, affect, the expression of emotion, thought, behavior. So this graph, as simple as it is, actually explains your individual life with your mind as a self-organizing process and the life of the planet. Because when we don't honor the differentiated needs of different species of living organisms on this planet, and we assert a differentiated right to treat Earth like a trash can, what results is a chaotic world that we're experiencing right now. It's called a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's a term that's used in the military, it's used in the media. The VUCA world we're in right now, what I want to suggest to you, is coming because the human brain has a vulnerability to think that it's separate from the rest of living organisms. Like I once attended a quantum physics think tank, and we'll get into that in a moment, and the first presenter put up a slide. Quantum physics has demonstrated that the world is profoundly interconnected. The real question is, what's wrong with the human mind that thinks it's not? And that's pretty funny and incredibly sad. And it's the issue of the quiz we're going to get into in a moment. What's the self? Because you may say, well, of course, the self that's me is sitting in this chair, or the self that's Dan is up here on stage. And that view is so common and so misguided. Energy and information flow, if that's where the self is coming from, I'll suggest to you, is not limited by skull or skin. And yet we use the skin as a defining feature of who we are. And that is a toxic lie that is creating misery in humanity and misery for other living beings. And it's something we can do something about. Why is love and awareness so overlapping? That's a grammatical error. Let's do it again. Why is love and awareness, why are they so overlapping? Why is there so much overlap? So let's take a look at the next slide. Here is a quick quantum course in what I think is going on. So I was asked to speak at a conference, just a co-faculty member with 150 quantum physicists and mathematicians and other types of physicists. And I kept on asking them in this week we spent together, what is energy? Because if the mind is an emergent property of energy, then we ought to go to the scientists who study energy, right? Makes sense. And they said, well, energy isn't really something, it's a lot of different things. I said, but why do you use the word energy? And here's what they said. Energy is the movement from possibility to actuality. If we don't question that word self, we are in for deep trouble. Human potential can be tapped when you get to this plane of possibility. When you drop out of those plateaus of a separate self, it's a win situation all around. Love and kindness are the strongest way of being as a human being we can have on this planet.
Who is Joshua Aaron Dirsu?
Wait, it starts over here though.
Plans catching up to end up being is tripping. Step 5, loving everything on the buffet. Appreciate the diverse and expanded reality. Aboriginal say we're reborn every day. So bone fed, I mean it's time to cut up and play. And like cash Holligan, I'm say it again. And like cash Holligan, the great spirit within. Cohabitation, multi-dimension. You can toil on the shore, dance in the ocean.
We love and bless you as we come through. It's easy to see, easier to do.
And like cash Holligan, I'ma say it again. And like cash Holligan, the great spirit within. Cohabitation, multi-dimension. You can toil on the shore, dance in the ocean.
And I knew that that's kind of what these people, the people who were involved in Christ outwardly, the message that they were kind of getting at, but not really practicing. So I really didn't pay too much. I don't really pay too much about what other people say about things. I just look to my own heart to figure it out.
God, they don't.
The birds of the sky neither reap nor sow, yet God takes care of them. Solomon in all his glory is not adorned as beautifully as the wildflowers in the field that are only to be cut down next season or for the harvest. How much will God's eternal children be adorned? Take no thought. Do not worry for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. If you're worried about tomorrow, where's your faith in being taken care of? Not only that, it says plain as day, having enough for the day is sin in enough of itself. So if you got more than enough for today, yet you're worried about how to increase your profit margin tomorrow, you're not in the way of Christ. And not only that, but as we looked at in part 2, is that it literally creates a deficit in your ability to cognitively function and to empathize with people, which is the main reason that human beings are even here. We showed that higher incentives lead to worse cognitive performance, and people of higher class or moneyed individuals or people who think that they're powerful literally they downshift their brain, functionally lobotomize their prefrontal cortex and become more nasty. They become nasty people. They call it acquired sociopathy, downshifting, a vagal tone, or empathy deficit. So when you're focused on money and not focused on the fact that you got enough for today and to be in that praise, that Christ isn't talking about a belief system. He's talking about the mechanics of your physiology. Okay? And I'm realizing that now. I don't know, what everybody else is doing with it, but I realize that now. So what Jesus also said is, wherever I am, you are. I'm one with the Father is one with me, and we are one together. You don't need recommendation. You are a living letter of God's word. The anointing that exists in him exists in you. You need not what no other man can teach you. Woe to you, the keepers of the law, for you have cast out the keys of knowledge, for you did not enter into yourself, and you kept those who were going into themselves from entering themselves. You hindered them from doing what we're supposed to do. And this way is the hard way. It's not easy. It's not easy to go into yourself and to figure it out for yourself. If your mind be single, your whole body will be filled with light. Single point focused on what? On the Christ command. The Christ command is, give your love to God, love God with all your mind, heart, body, and soul. And not only that, but love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we saw the physiological, biological, physical benefits of love in the last video. It's undeniable what mutual appreciation does, what a micro moment of shared positivity does, what Dr. Thomas Lewis was talking about, in what biological love is we literally, when we respect and spend time and love another person, we gain access to their internal experience. Not only that, but we feel predisposed to care for it. And we know it because we have it inside us. Loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul. What does that mean? That means loving mathematics. Because this is creation. Loving all of creation with all of your heart means knowing about math, knowing about physics, loving physics, knowing about biology, psychology, anthropology, loving these things. Loving all of this beautiful creation, loving nature, loving children. Speaking of children, they say, who is the greatest in the kingdom? Who is the greatest in the kingdom? He pulls up a kid and says, this one right here. Lest ye be converted unto a child, you won't enter into the kingdom. The kingdom of heaven where? The kingdom of heaven does not come with observation. It's not over here or over there, for the kingdom is within you. The kingdom is within you. This anointing is within you. You are one with Jesus when you enter yourself. Not only that, but when you do this, you will do even greater things than him. So, if you're worried about how you're going to take care of tomorrow, when your lights are on for today, when you're worried about where the food's going to come from next week, when you got more than enough to eat right now, you're not following the word of Jesus. Not only that, but you're not following what optimal human functioning says about the science behind it. And so when I reconnected to the Bible and I started coming across these kind of things, I said, why is not no one listening? People are buying fancy cars, worried about their bills and all this other stuff, and they're taking themselves out of today, out of praise, and they develop an acquired sociopathy. It's not like, oh, is it good or is it bad? This ain't morals. This is physics. This is math. This is mechanics. This is in the bones of the Akkadian people. This is in the bones of Cajun people. Now, whether they pay attention to it or not, that's on their deal. But this is how our ancestors have been living for a long time. I used to have a lot of interesting choice words to say about the Bible and Jesus and all this other stuff. But now I realize, there's some goodness there. There's some genuine goodness. It's just that no one's paying attention to it. Everybody's worried about what they look like, or I don't know what they're worried about because it ain't my concern. I got more than enough for today. I got kids to have fun with. I got my beautiful wife. I got all the food I could eat, all the grass to play in, all the trees to climb. And that's my focus. And when you do that, your body is filled with the light of consciousness, the light of being connected with universal entropy.
The light of consciousness, the light of being connected with universal entropy.
Yeah, yeah. Bomba kasha. Yo!
When I see you, I know that it's true. Love is what we got rising to the top.
When we first held hands, you can't even imagine. We transcend time and space like some fucking magicians. At that point, we knew we'd be together forever. Now we could weather the weather, we had an umbrella. Had a psychic friend open up a portal of light. Walk through it hand in hand, now we married for life. Taking a flight, messed around and had to flex our might. We both dogs in this bitch, we ain't taking no shite.
When I see you, I know that it's true. Love is what we got rising to the
Now
top.
picture us cutting up in New York City with Ibogaine activist Sharon Green, sitting pretty. Got introduced to a band of friends over in New Jersey. Gave me their first psilocybin trip, cause we knew they was worthy. It was all love and hugs, and then we bounced to Woods Hole. Spent time with Nam Chomsky and other international intellectuals. We was up in the know, but little did we know we conceived our first baby. Now we're taking it home to Louisiana.
When I see you, I know it's true. Love is what we got rising to the top.
Started a job at Delta Tech, teaching mathematics, psychology, and critical thinking. Had them people singing, hearts ringing, ding-a-linging, and love. But it wasn't enough, 70+ hours was tough. We wanted to live that family tribe life, cause we felt that's what's up. Another baby on the way, spend time together all day. Well, there's a will, there's a way. What else I got to say? How we live is how we play. We optimize our limbic resonance, vagal tone, and our blessed neural capacity.
When I see you, I know it's true. Love is what we got rising to the top.
True love, now we living it up out here at Paw Paw Jeans. Heaven on earth is the scene, and we living clean. Beet juice, broccoli sprouts with God-loving machines. Picture this, love your life and you can have what you dream. Our children know that they love, they know that they see. Picture this, love your life and you can have what you dream. Our children know that they love, they know that they see. Picture this, love your life and you can have what you dream. Got it.
Little type raised up in Brownsville, like Charles, Louisiana. In the woods is where we chill. Little type raised up in Brownsville, like Charles, Louisiana. In the woods is where we chill. Government housing when the hood was still a home of mutual aid and respect. No one was ever left alone. Used to go with 2 quarters and get an ice cup. Bring that shit back when it's empty for a cookie, that's what's up. Cutting up, eating buttercups, playing with Tonka trucks, not giving a fuck. You test my gut while I test your chin. Again and again, again and again. I was built to last, I was built to win. You could be a foe, you could be a friend. As long as you real, we don't play pretend. As long as you real, we don't play pretend. Immune to the rule of the Palpatine, it was a long time ago, but the Jedi win. Immune to the rule of the Palpatine, it was a long time ago, but the Jedi win. Mama always told me to be real with how I feel and that it takes good effort to increase my skill. Mama always told me to be real with how I feel and that it takes good effort to increase my skill. What looks like a kill? She said I was gonna be a heartbreaker. She was alone, but we had a home. She was a housemaker. But sometimes mental illness would take her. Co-occurring disorders of addiction was the flavor. But she was my savior and would tell me straight up, Mom's got problems, ain't got nothing to do with you, so keep your head up. And you can do do anything in this world you put your mind to. And whatever you choose, mama's 100% behind you. Let me remind you, if you really need help, put the call out and someone will find you. Let me remind you, if you really need help, put the call out and someone will find you. Years later, I started to cry over not having a father, not understanding why. Years later, I started to cry over not having a father, not understanding why. To being away from my mother was one thing. I learned to feel her inside of my heart and let my heart sing. But when it came to my dad, there was agony and depression. It took everything I had to break through and be renewed by everything I know to be true. The universe is inside of you. Everyone that you know is a father of you, and the best of the best is inside of you. Ain't no one can hide from you. Everybody gotta ride with you. Ain't no.
All right, I'm from Southwest Louisiana, where all-night psychosexual death cult environments are something you just kind of grow up around. This Jeffrey Epstein shit's kind of like reading my mama's multiple personality, orgy-filled, death-fueled therapy journal. Or my wife's grandma and uncle having too many books on quantum physics, Kama Sutra, the Kabbalah, and the occult. My mama named me Joshua after the Bible, and in the biblical sense, I'm a child of God because she ran off my daddy before he had a chance to figure out what voodoo's really about. And Madeline as an entity was created or manifested when I was born, so I don't know if you can imagine what it's like to have a mother who's as old as you are, smokes crack, has blackout-filled orgies, and is everyone's best friend but yours. But don't worry, it gets a little better. When I was 2.5, I was raped by a 7-year-old that looks just like my wife. Perky little tits and all.
Deliver me from the guilt of bloodshed.
Hey, high five for mom, high five for mom. High five for mom. Go get her, go get her. Yeah. Hey. Good job. I was left alone, mommy on drugs, nobody home. I was left alone, mommy on drugs, nobody home. I was left alone, mommy on drugs, nobody home, nobody home. I was left alone, mommy on drugs, nobody home, nobody home. I was left alone, mommy on drugs, nobody home. I was left alone, mommy on drugs, nobody home, nobody home. Hey. Alright, come get down with me. People of the chocolate persuasion, black fishes, people of the chocolate persuasion, for the dark ages of the time when black people ruled Europe. So when you go into the
Man, look, man, let me talk to you real quick, man. Come on, man, come here, look. You best believe, man, this darkness shit, man, I love this darkness.
I'm like an angel in this darkness. I bring all my aspects in this darkness, you know what I'm saying? I love the force. But you see that we got this kingdom here, you know what I'm saying? Like, woohoo, check it out, wow, wow. But the shit ain't a joke. Best believe we on business when it comes to that kingdom, cuz. Lighten up a little bit, come on, man, come a little closer. We won't go prancing, come on. We prancing in the sun, but everybody got a floating castle. But let me walk with you, man. Look, let me tell you something. Every day we getting closer. Oh, we getting closer and closer, man. We coming with it too. That's on God, that's on goodness. We love it. And you best believe every day we get closer, we coming with some real muscle. We coming with that real muscle, cuz. Ain't nothing about it, don't even much worry about it, cuz. Peace. See, we don't normally publicly pray like that in front of other people and show off. But here in Southwest Louisiana, you gotta understand, whether you like it or not, death's in the air. Everywhere I go, there's an angel there.
There's an angel there.
Everywhere I go,
Everywhere I go,
there's an angel there.
there's an angel there.
Couple of them real quick. Boom, and then just boom in the same direction.
Okay, so I'll get back, right?
God, get back. Shoot it. Alright, watch out. Over there. Look, me and Noah's gonna finish off. See that? Come here. See that silver? Take the shit off safety. I don't know how much. It's just, yeah, it's on both sides. Alright, we're gonna aim at that silver. You ready?
Ready.
And go. That bullet casing hit me in the head. Hey! You're done. Alright. Boom, 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 boom. Just do 1 and 2 right at it.
Okay.
Got a racket there, yep. Amen.
Seigneur Jésus-Christ, Fils de Dieu, aie pitié de moi. Dieu au-dessous de tous, parce que tout le monde chez Dieu. Paix soit avec toi, ainsi soit-il.
Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner.
Thank you for being a friend. Jesus, man, you know that I heed it. You said
to pray as if I got it. And now I can see it. The anointing that exists in him exists in you too. You need not what no other man can teach you. It's like Uncle Hawk visiting with angels up on the front porch. Share with him some scripture he never seen before. The invisible things of God are clearly understood, and that which appears, kick it in high gear, and it gets near and near, just like a 3D object cast a 2D shadow, a 4D object, a 3D shadow, a quasi-crystal let you know you're playing with something higher dimensional. These cosmotropic forces got you back. Remember that when it seemed like controlling constraints is only attack. It's a matter of fact, the eternal force of intelligence erupts inside you. The universe doesn't entropy. Main shit is unstoppable. Increasing future freedom of action. I have been snapping platinum as you see what had happened, as you follow your passion. Since day one, I've been a warrior. You'll ride me down, excessively seeking out peace with everyone under the sun. You can do what you do, cause my shit's already done. So be enjoyed wisely to increase your lifespan. This is the birthright of every child, woman, and man. So be enjoyed wisely to increase your lifespan. This is the birthright of every child, woman, and man. So turn your frown upside down, little boys and girls, cause we playing with the energy that creates world. I must confess, I've been blessed by Mr. Reneo, and like him I understand the neurological tract is inside you. This knowledge put into practice brings about the perfection. No need for flexing, only life experience can teach us this lesson. Be diligent in thought, care how you feel, care about what you think you feel you know is real. And when stress sets in, we reach for appreciation and human connection. Our body response begins to strengthen, releasing DHEA and regenerating them hard cells your body knows to do. You choose the heaven to hell. So be enjoyed wisely to increase your lifespan. This is the birthright of every child, woman, and man. So be enjoyed wisely to increase your lifespan. This is the birthright of every child, woman, and man. Peace.
The following provides scientific reasoning for a biological basis to the Immaculate Conception, especially given the woman is extremely lonely and sees no suitable mates, especially because she has a hard-on for God. The recent discovery, I think totally predictable, that many creatures actually can produce offspring without sex under the right circumstances. And we've seen this now many times with things like sharks and fish. Wow, sharks are fish, I don't know what I'm talking about, but we've seen many cases in which vertebrates have successfully cloned themselves or something very close to it. I would argue this would be triggered by loneliness. Basically the discovery that you're well fed, but you don't have, there's no mate anywhere, can trigger this. So I'll be your huckleberry today. But here is the core prophecy, the most important one that you absolutely have to know about that's coming true right now. Here's the first part. Our Lady of Good Success said that after the middle of the 20th century, unbridled passions will give way to a total corruption of customs because Satan will reign, targeting children in particular to ensure general corruption. But what's even more incredible is she says this: the enemies of the church will focus principally on the children in order to sustain this general corruption. Woe to the children of these times. And now it's time for me to reveal to you the exact prophecy that's coming true today. Mary says, quote, having taken possession of all social classes, the enemies of the church will have such subtlety to introduce itself in the domestic homes, such that perverting children, the devil will glory in feeding on the exquisite delicacy of children's hearts. In those fateful times, childish innocence will hardly be found. So think about what Mary just prophesied. After 1950, Satan will begin to rule. He'll target the morals of children and he'll attack from inside the home, here and smartphones. But there's one more prophecy I haven't told you about yet that's going to fill you with so much hope. Our Lady of Good Success promised Mother Mariana that when everything seems lost, that will be her hour. She says, quote, this will mark the arrival of my hour. In a marvelous way will dethrone the proud and cursed Satan, trampling him under my feet and fettering him in the infernal abyss. And this is where we are today. We're right on the tipping point of a total cultural revolution. And in case that wasn't enough to convince you, listen to what Our Lady of Fatima revealed to Sister Lucia. Quote, "The final battle between the Lord and the kingdom of Satan will be about marriage and the family. Don't be afraid," she added, because, quote, "whoever works for the sanctity of marriage and the family will always be fought against and opposed in every way, because this is the decisive battle. Nevertheless, Our Lady has already crushed his head."
But for those who don't, there are thousands of postcards from the 1890s to the 1910s that nobody talks about. They show babies being grown in cabbage patches, babies being harvested from gardens, babies arriving on trains, babies being pulled from water with hooks and nets, and some that literally say in French, "Nous sommes à vendre," we are for sale. These aren't art projects, these aren't cute jokes. There are thousands of these across Europe and America, and they depict a production line, a repopulation operation. The woman in the red is their handler. The men in the top hats pay for them. Familiar, right? This is the real history behind the Cabbage Patch Kids, and it's even in their lore. A story about babies being grown in a garden, delivered by a stork in uniform, while an evil witch tries to enslave them for labor. Nobody really ever questioned where that story came from. In 1881, a French doctor attached to a foundling hospital built the first baby incubator. He modeled it on a chicken hatchery. Within a decade, baby incubators filled with live premature infants were exhibited at World's Fairs across Europe and America. The medical journal that covered it wrote, quote, "It is just as essential in raising men and women as it is raising any kind of stock," end quote. And in 1896, at the same Paris World Fair that showcased those incubators, the first narrative film ever made premiered, Le Fée aux Choux, The Fairy of the Cabbages, a woman pulling babies from a cabbage patch and handing them to couples who pay a farmer. The first movie ever made was about selling babies, and it was created to promote the incubators. Then came the trains. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were loaded onto orphan trains and shipped from East Coast cities to the Midwest and West. 72% of them had at least one living parent. They weren't orphans, they were taken. Their names were changed, their records destroyed. They were displayed at train stations and then chosen by families. And then we're just told to forget everything about where they come from. So to put that together, foundling hospitals funded by elite with fertility goddesses on their seals, a secret fraternity running the orphanages, thousands of postcards advertising babies for sale, incubators modeled on chicken hatcheries at world fairs. The first movie ever made is about producing and selling babies, and 200,000 children were shipped across the continent with their identities erased. Now look at what I just showed you in these documents. Shell companies declaring DNA analysis, CRISPR gene editing, fertility doctors, egg harvesting, AI processing, forced pregnancies, babies taken, women trafficked through international pipelines and brought to genetics meetings, and $167 million routed through one man's shell company to a Rothschild bank. The same banking dynasty that's been at the center of European finance since the founding hospitals were built. The same operation, different century. The only thing that changed is the technology. Okay, so I showed you what I found, but that was just from 44,000 documents in the database that I was using. There are 3.5 million pages in the full DOJ release. What I showed you today is just what one person found in 1 week.
You see, the problem with these lames is they can't tell the difference between a smart guy, a good scientist, and a Jeffrey Epstein. And the problem with these smart guys and good scientists, they can't tell the motherfucking difference between a good scientist, a smart guy, and an Epstein.
I got a little old baby dick. I got black beef and balls. 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 I got a little old baby dick. 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 Boobies, balls, and boners. Boobies, balls, and boners. Boobies, balls, and boners. Boobies, balls, and boners. I got a little old baby dick. 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 I got black ass balls and 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 dick. I got a little old baby 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 dick. Fuck you.
Such as videos where we say 90% of a baby's brain develops in the first 5 years, and goes on to show this is a baby's brain on books, even though it doesn't look at all like a baby's brain on books, and even though that statistic may be a little suspect. But if it's to get kids to read books, shouldn't we encourage its use? Again, how do we evaluate the use of brain science? Let's go with another one that's coming, that has never been with us exactly this way before. We've been trying to enhance our brains since humans have been around. One way or another, education would be the primary way that we coerce it. So we take kids out of homes in this country at age 5, we force them into a room, and we manipulate their brains for 8 hours a day. And if you don't subscribe to that, we send truant officers after you to get those kids, put them in a room, and manipulate their brains. That's what we do, and we call it education. It works really well for a lot of folks. There are also other ways to manipulate the brain. This was captured.
It's my favorite. It should have been last year, but now I'll keep using it. By 2016, man's in...
Daddy makes good grades. Daddy makes good grades. Daddy makes good grades. Make good grades. Daddy, do I make good grades, Daddy? Daddy.
In 1890, William James of Harvard, creator of American academic psychology as a science, wrote, I'm quoting from Psychology, "Habit alone is what saves the children of fortune from the envious uprisings of the poor. Habits of deference, habits of suggestibility, habits of regarding people in the same boat as yourself as competitors." Shortly after James wrote that, our institutional schooling was set into motion for the very first time, fashioned by the children of fortune to teach habits to the envious poor. Track the leadership mind through recent history, and you will see that William James was only echoing the attitudes of his class. Winston Churchill, for instance, not Saddam Hussein, was the first person ever to order poison gas use from the air against the civilian population. He did that to the Kurds in what eventually became Iraq. And stung by criticism of this murderous decision, Churchill defended himself with these words in 1918. I'm quoting, "I don't understand squeamishness about the use of gas. I am strongly in favor of using poison gas against uncivilized tribes." It's a shame he didn't mean the English. Female leaders, given a chance, have shown a similar disdain for the unfortunate. Victoria Woodhull, not Hillary Clinton, was the first American woman to testify in front of Congress, the first female stockbroker, and the first lady to publish a newspaper. In 1872, she officially ran for the American presidency, and in her book, The Rapid Multiplication of the Unfit, which is still in print, by the way, she warned against the incurable biological depravity of the poor. What kind of schools that Mrs. Woodhull or William James or Winston Churchill would have signed off on. I don't need to leave to your imagination since they are all around you.
Hey, dum-dum, you are the Jeffrey Epstein cyborg fucking experiment.
Oh, God. And the misery can be stopped. I like the misery. The world could be changed. I like this world. Go to hell. Been there.
If I could get away with it, man, I'd kill everybody. All the bad guys. Yeah, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh, I'm the real bad guy. Yeah, I'm the real bad guy, huh? Yeah, nah, man, take that knife off his neck, cuz. Take that knife off his neck. That's right. We chillin', cuz. But you over there, you looking real. You looking a lot like a drone, mon ami. The following is why I choose to have some mercy and empathy and compassion for Jeffrey Epstein and every power offender, every sex offender, every person that finds themselves machinating, if you will, or embodying sin. Because there's very real research that shows that that type of behavior is directly connected to the systems and the infrastructure that most people happily benefit from.
So there are regions of the frontal lobes that are now being called the empathy network. And those regions of the brain do a lot of things. But one of the things that they do is they kind of help us detect other people's pain. When you damage the empathy networks of your brain, which some people do, they become really impulsive. And you can have people who are really good citizens of the world, right? And if they have this head trauma, and little chunks of the frontal lobes are gone, they'll start swearing suddenly, they start yelling at their kids, they feel disconnected. In the neuroscience literature, they call this acquired sociopathy. Through brain trauma, you become a sociopath. And our lab studies find if you give people a little bit of power, they kind of look like those brain trauma patients, right? So we find, like, if I feel powerful, I flirt inappropriately, I am more likely at work to swear and to act in a rude fashion, I'm more likely to gamble. It makes you impulsive. When you feel powerful, you kind of lose touch with other people. You stop attending carefully to what other people think. In our lab, it's come to be known as the Cookie Monster study. We brought 3 people to the lab. We pointed to one person, we said, "You're in charge," right? And so that person kind of felt powerful. And then they had to do this really boring task of, like, write policies for the university. And they're getting kind of bored. We bring a plate of chocolate chip cookies. Everybody takes one cookie. All groups always leave one cookie on the plate because you don't want to be that person that takes the last cookie. So there's that 4th cookie. And we find high power people, they reach out and take it. And then my grad student, Dan Ward at the time, he came to me and he's like, "I think people are eating differently when they have power." And lo and behold, our high power person was more likely to eat with their mouth open, lips smacking, crumbs literally like falling onto their sweaters, you know. It's ridiculous. Why are people so frequently and routinely good and generous and sacrificing, right? And, you know, most people think that Darwin had this idea of survival of the fittest, that really it's the most ruthless and bloodthirsty who really thrive and survive. That is not Darwin's view of human evolution at all. He really felt that sympathy is the strongest instinct that humans have. Communities that have the most sympathetic members will flourish and raise the greatest number of offspring. That notion of Darwin's led to this sense that out of the vulnerability of our offspring emerged, first of all, social structures like cooperative caregiving, and then also physiological systems shaped by evolution to help us take care of the carriers of our genes, our offspring. We have learned from neuroscience down at UCLA that if you feel physical pain, a part of your brain lights up, and if I see you have that physical pain, the same part of my brain lights up. It's as if we're wired to have the same experience of other people. Empathy is this really complicated task. It really engages the frontal lobes, these newer regions of the cortex that are involved in more complex symbolic processes like language and imagining the future. Because empathy requires that you think there's someone else out there who has feelings and thoughts that may be different from mine. That's a really complicated cognitive achievement. In my lab, the Berkeley Social Interaction Lab, we showed images of prototypical suffering to our participants. They trigger massively powerful reactions of compassion, and what we found in the brain is that a very old part of the brain, called the periaqueductal gray, which is common to mammals when they take care of things, lights up when you feel compassion. So that tells us compassion is really old in the nervous system, as Darwin speculated. My students and I got really interested in social class. What does it do to the human mind? Our lab and other labs are interested in something called the vagus nerve. It's the longest bundle of nerves in the human nervous system. In our research, compassion, the feeling of caring for someone in need, activates the vagus nerve. Lower class individuals, if we show them images of suffering, they have a vagus nerve response. You don't see that in upper class individuals. It literally is a compassion deficit that's produced by lots of wealth. Next set of studies on charity. Who gives? Economic analyses would say, if I have a lot of money, it should be easy to give. If I have $900 in my bank account, giving away money it really matters. It matters what you put in your fridge. And in spite of that, what we find is lower class individuals give more, and this is replicated in studies of philanthropy. One of the things that this science tells us is there is enormous strength in these poorer communities of generosity and empathy that, many people in more privileged circumstances miss. It's strong community. And we sacrifice and we risk exploitation and we still do it. And not only that, but it actually becomes personally fulfilling and inspiring to engage in that work. We find these secondary delights in acting on behalf of others. And I think that it really requires that we have to redefine human self-interest. The great ethical traditions have always been encouraging this. And now we're seeing the science say, yeah, the brain really cares about other people.
Attempt to make sense of quantum theory is that, roughly speaking, the innovation is going to come in how we think about causation, how we think about inference, right? So those are going to be two really important elements that we need to unscramble. Like what's about reality and what's about our knowledge of reality. So I want to know what's about causation, what's about inference. And so roughly speaking, for me, there's going to be quantum notions of causation and inference, and they are going to be innovations relative to the classical notions of causation and inference. Much like, if you think about the notions of space and time, relativistic notions of space and time are innovations on the pre-relativistic notions. So they're still recognizably about space and time, but there's certain aspects of the conventional notions that we have to give up. And so it's similar here, that there's certain aspects of the notions of causation and inference that we're going to have to give up when we go to quantum theory.
This is the first two papers beyond the analogos of the great hypersigil. And with these two papers, we really establish it is what it is.
New proof reveals fundamental limits of scientific knowledge. A new proof by SFI. Professor David Wolpert sends a humbling message to would-be superintelligences. You can't know everything all the time. The proof starts by mathematically formalizing the way an inference device, say a scientist armed with a supercomputer, fabulous experimental equipment, etc., can have knowledge about the state of the universe around them. Whether that scientist's knowledge is acquired by observing their universe, controlling it, predicting what will happen next, or inferring what happened in the past. There's a mathematical structure that restricts that knowledge. The key is that the inference device, their knowledge, and the physical variable that they may know something about are all subsystems of the same universe. That coupling restricts what the device can know. In particular, Wolpert proves that there's always something that the inference device cannot predict, and something that they cannot remember, and something that they cannot observe. In some ways, this formalism can be viewed as many different extensions of Donald McKay's statement that a prediction concerning the narrator's future cannot account for the effect of the narrator's learning that prediction. Wolpert explains, perhaps the simplest extension is that when we formalize inference devices mathematically, we notice that the same impossibility results that hold for predictions of the future Mackay is concerned, also hold for memories of the past. Time is an arbitrary variable. It plays no role in terms of differing states of the universe. Not everyone can be right. What happens if we don't require that an inference device know everything about their universe, but only that it knows the most that could be known? Wolpert's mathematical framework shows that no two inference devices who both have free will appropriately defined and have maximal knowledge about the universe can coexist in that universe. There may or not be one such super inference device in some given universe, but no more than one. Wolpert jokingly refers to this result as the monotheism theorem, since while it does not forbid there being a deity in our universe, it forbids there being more than one. As an example, suppose that Bob and Ellis are both scientists with unlimited computational abilities. Moreover, suppose that they both have free will, in that the question Bob asks himself does not restrict the possible questions Alice could ask herself, and vice versa. This turns out to be crucial. Then it is impossible for Bob to predict or retrodict what Alice thinks at another time, if Alice is also asked to predict what Bob is not thinking at that time. Wolpert compares this proposition to the Cretan liars paradox, in which Epimenides of Knossos, a Cretan, famously stated all Cretans are liars. The unlike Epimenides statement, though, which exposes the problem of systems that have the capability of self-reference. Wolpert's reasoning also applies to inference devices without that capability. In addition, in Wolpert's formalism, the same scientists, considered at two different moments in time, is two different inference devices. So while it could be that's an inference device is a super inference device at one moment, they could not be so more than once. Again, tongue-in-cheek, he refers to this as the deism theorem, since it allows there to be a deity that knows the most that could be known at the beginning of the universe, but forbids there ever being so knowledgeable again, because it does not rely on specific theories of physical reality, like quantum mechanics or relativity. The new proof presents a broad set of limits for exploring the nature of scientific knowledge. None of these results, limiting knowledge acquired by prediction, relies on there being chaotic processes in the universe. It doesn't matter what the laws of physics are, or if Alice is more computationally powerful than a Turing machine, says Wolpert. All of this is independent of that, and it's much broader ranging. This research is progressing in many different directions, ranging from epistemic logic to a theory of Turing machines. In particular, Wolpert and his colleagues are creating a more nuanced, probabilistic framework that will allow them to explore not only the limits of absolutely correct knowledge, but also what happens when the inference devices are not required to know with 100% accuracy. What if Epimenides had said, the probability that a Cretan is a liar is greater than X%, moving from impossibility to probability could tell us whether knowing one thing with greater certainty inherently limits the ability to know another thing. According to Wolpert, we are getting some very intriguing results.
And some of those results apply to our physical world and what it's really capable of.
Quantum physics problem proved unsolvable. Gödel and Turing enter quantum physics. A mathematical problem underlying fundamental questions in particle and quantum physics is provably unsolvable, according to scientists at UCL, Universidad Complutense and de Madrid, ICMAT, and Technical University of Munich. It is the first major problem in physics for which such a fundamental limitation could be proven. The findings are important because they show that even a perfect and complete description of the microscopic properties of a material is not enough to predict its macroscopic behavior. A small spectral gap, the energy needed to transfer an electron from a low-energy state to an excited state, is the central property of semiconductors. In a similar way, the spectral gap plays an important role for many other materials. When this energy becomes very small, i.e. the spectral gap closes, it becomes possible for the material to transition to a completely different state. An example of this is when a material becomes superconducting. Mathematically extrapolating from a microscopic description of a material to the bulk solid is considered one of the key tools in the search for materials exhibiting superconductivity at ambient temperatures or other desirable properties. A study published today in Nature, however, shows crucial limits to this approach. Using sophisticated mathematics, the authors proved that, even with a complete microscopic description of a quantum material, determining whether it has a spectral gap is, in fact, an undecidable question. Alan Turing is famous for his role in cracking the Enigma code, said co-author Dr. Toby Cubitt from UCL Computer Science. But amongst mathematicians and computer scientists, he's even more famous for proving that certain mathematical questions are undecidable. They are neither true nor false, but are beyond the reach of mathematics. What we've shown is that the spectral gap is one of these undecidable problems. This means a general method to determine whether matter, described by quantum mechanics, has a spectral gap or not, cannot exist, which limits the extent to which we can predict the behavior of quantum materials and potentially even fundamental particle physics. $1 million to win. The most famous problem concerning spectral gaps is whether the theory governing the fundamental particles of matter itself, the standard model of particle physics, has a spectral gap. The Young-Mills mass gap conjecture, particle physics experiments such as CERN, and numerical calculations on supercomputers suggest that there is a spectral gap. Although there is a $1 million prize at stake from the Clay Mathematics Institute for whoever can, no one has yet succeeded in proving this. Mathematically, from the equations of the standard model, Dr. Cubitt added, it's possible for particular cases of a problem to be solvable, even when the general problem is undecidable, so someone may yet win the coveted $1 million prize. But our results do raise the prospect that some of these big open problems in theoretical physics could be provably unsolvable. We knew about the possibility of problems that are undecidable in principle since the works of Turing and Gödel in the 1930s, added co-author Professor Michael Wolff from Technical University of Munich. So far, however, this only concerned the very abstract corners of theoretical computer science and mathematical logic. No one had seriously contemplated this as a possibility, right in the heart of theoretical physics before, but our results change this picture. From a more philosophical perspective, they also challenge the reductionists' point of view, as the insurmountable difficulty lies precisely in the derivation of macroscopic properties from a microscopic description. Not all bad news, co-author Professor David Perez Garcia from Universidad Complutense de Madrid and ICM MAT said, it's not all bad news, no. The reason this problem is impossible to solve in general is because models at this level exhibit extremely bizarre behavior that essentially defeats any attempt to analyze them. But this bizarre behavior also predicts some new and very weird physics that hasn't been seen before. For example, our results show that adding even a single particle to a lump of matter, however large, could in principle dramatically change its properties. New physics like this is often later exploited in technology, and already is by nature. The researchers are now seeing whether their findings extend beyond the artificial mathematical models produced by their calculations to more realistic quantum materials that could be realized in the laboratory, and more importantly, in our lives.
Now, the information contained in these first two papers is beyond anything that you can find within the hyperresidual itself. But please be rest assured that the hyperresidual does represent very real, embodied, embedded experience in this real world. To exist is to power set. And you can trust this little hyperresidual, it exists too.
Il y a beaucoup de bon temps dans la sud de Louisiane. Hey!
And a lavos of the great hyperresidual. Let's describe what can't be described.
Let's start with power sets.
So again, it's a contradiction. So when I was teaching at Oxford, one of my students came up with the following different anthropomorphization of Cantor's argument. Let's consider all possible fruit salads we have a given collection of fruits, apples and oranges and grapes, whatever. And a fruit salad consists of some collection of those fruits. So there's the banana, pear, grape salad, and so on. There's a lot of different kinds of salad. Every set of fruits makes a salad, a fruit salad. Okay. And we want to prove that for any collection of fruits, even if there are infinitely many different kinds of fruit, for any collection of fruits, there are more possible fruit salads than there are fruits. So if not, then you can put a one-to-one correspondence between the fruits and the fruit salads. So you could name every fruit salad after a fruit. That fruit might not be in that salad. Doesn't matter. It's a naming, a one-to-one correspondence. And then, of course, we form the diagonal salad, which consists of all the fruits that are not in the salad that's named after them. And that's a perfectly good salad. It might be the kind of diet salad if it was the empty salad, or it might be the universal salad, which had all fruits in it, if all the fruits are in it, or it might have just some and not all. So that diagonal salad would have to be named after some fruit. So let's suppose it's named after durian, meaning that it was associated with durian in the one-to-one correspondence. And then we ask, well, is durian in the salad that it's named after? And if it is, then it shouldn't be. And if it isn't, then it should be. And so it's, again, the same contradiction. So all of those arguments are just the same as Cantor's proof that the power set of any set is bigger than the set. And
a whole. Aleph null is the smallest countable infinity, and it's equal to the size of the set of natural numbers. The size of the set of real numbers is 2 to the power of Aleph null. Beth null equals Aleph null, which is the size of the set of natural numbers. Beth 1 equals 2 to the power Beth null, which is the size of the set of real numbers, and Beth 2 equals 2 to the power Beth 1, which is the size of the power set of the real numbers. So in general, Beth n plus 1 equals 2 to the Beth n.
And now for causal entropic forces.
So what you've just seen is that a variety of signature human intelligent cognitive behaviors, such as tool use and walking upright and social cooperation, all follow from a single equation which drives a system to maximize its future freedom of action. Now, there's a profound irony here. Going back to the beginning of the usage of the term robot, the play RUR, R-U-R, there was always a concept that if we developed machine intelligence, there would be a cybernetic revolt. The machines would rise up against us. One major consequence of this work is that maybe all of these decades we've had the whole concept of cybernetic revolt in reverse. It's not that machines first become intelligent and then megalomaniacal and try to take over the world. It's quite the opposite, that the urge to take control of all possible futures is a more fundamental principle than that of intelligence, that general intelligence may in fact emerge directly from this sort of control grabbing rather than vice versa. Another important consequence is goal seeking.
And now for the universal set, the null set. Engage symmetry.
Universal set. A set large enough to contain all sets under consideration in the current context. Universal set synonyms: universal class, universe. UNIVERSALSET. Universal set.
Hi, for this video what I want to do is talk to you about empty and universal sets. An empty set is also known as a null set sometimes, is a set containing no elements. That means that there is nothing in it. It could be a situation as described and there's nothing that matches it. But anytime you end up with something that is empty, it's denoted by either a circle with a line through it or you can use the set brackets with nothing inside. So these are the two ways that are used to denote empty sets in mathematics. So an example could be rolling a 7 on a die. This would result in an empty set because when you're rolling a die, you can only end up with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And so like if you were looking for the probability of rolling a 7, that would be 0 because there aren't any. Your result is a empty set because there is nothing that matches that. Okay. The other one that I want to talk to you about is a universal set. A universal set will change from problem to problem. It's the set that contains all of the elements for a specific situation or a given problem, and we denote it by the capital letter U. So a couple examples that you might encounter would be all the letters in the alphabet. So if you ended up with a letter that was in the alphabet, then it would be contained in your set. If you ended up with something like, say, a number, then it would not be contained in that set. Okay, another example would be the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be the set of all values that can be rolled on a number, or on a die, or a number cube, as they sometimes call it in some textbooks now. But it's just the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another example could be the set of all real numbers. So it really does change from problem to problem. So a universal set is dependent on the information that is given to you. So a lot of times it will be given to you in the directions. It will say for this set use this universal set, or for this set it has to be a real number. So if it's not contained in there, then it would result in an empty set.
And then there's one very special example of a set I'm going to illustrate. It's the set with nothing in it. Squiggly brackets with nothing. This is an empty box. And we give a special symbol to associate to that set with sort of 0 with a backslash to it. This is the empty set. Now, I should note that mathematicians do actually go a bit further than just agreeing as this is a foundational concept. There's a list of axioms that specify the different properties that sets have to have. The Zermelo-Fraenkel axioms are the most standard way that mathematicians have agreed on the basic concept. But either way, we're saying this is the base, and we're all just going to agree on what that means. Okay, so let's do something with that. I want to now interpret what is a number, because a number is not a set. I've talked about the set that contains numbers, but what really is a number? Could I interpret numbers as just being a special type of set? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the natural numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, and try to associate a particular set to each of them. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to associate 0 with the empty set. I'm drawing an arrow here relatively loosely, and what I'm trying to say is that the concept that you and I have in our minds of 0, I'm going to interpret that in terms of the language of set theory by associating to it the empty set. Indeed, the empty set is not nothing, it is a set with nothing inside of it. And so this association makes sort of sense because I'm associating 0 with the set that has 0 elements inside of it. Likewise, let me take the number 1, and 1 is associated to a set as well. It's associated to the set with 1 element in it. The element is just the empty set. So I think of this as a box, that's the big outside set, that contains the empty set. This is a box within a box. Okay, let me keep going. What about 2? 2 I'll define to be a special type of set that has 2 different elements into it, so let's make this different association. 2 is the set that contains, well, both of the previous ones. It contains the empty set, and it contains the set that contains the empty set. So in other words, at the level of the outside box, this biggest box, there's 2 things inside of it. There's an empty set, an empty box, and then there's a box that contains an empty box. There is the set that contains the empty set. Okay, so...
If we have something that has a value at every location in space and time, physicists call that a field. So this information that you add, that's what's called the gauge field. Gauge phases field moving electrons. What? Bear with me. I have an example. Suppose you have an old version beam balance. If you have the same length of beams on both sides and the same weights, it's in balance. Now let's say that adding weights is like shifting the phases by an arbitrary amount. If you add the same weights on both sides, nothing changes. This is like saying the physics remains invariant under this arbitrary choice if it's the same in both places. But if you add a bigger weight on one side than on the other, that ruins the balance. This is like setting a different phase in one place than the other. This is your gauge. But that'd mean the physics depends on this arbitrary choice. Not good. So what you do is that whenever you add a weight, you also adjust the support of the balance arm. This is what the gauge field does. If you change both together, you always keep the balance. With the gauge field, the gauge doesn't matter. This is basically how gauge symmetries work. You tie two changes together so that the net cancels out. And you do this because quantities which are physically measurable shouldn't depend on arbitrary conventions. With about light, so the thing is that once you introduce this gauge field, it develops a will on its own. It's there to keep the electron phases properly lined up. But it can do things even if there's no electron inside anywhere. In particular, it's got ripples that can travel, and those are the photons, the quanta of the electromagnetic field. They are what light is made of. Again, this is very similar to Einstein's theory. Space curves around masses. But even if there are no masses, space can have ripples that travel. In Einstein's theories, these are the gravitational waves. For the electron, they are electromagnetic waves. So this is why we have light, because we have electric charges. Another thing that you can learn from this is that you can't have an electron without an electric field. You knew this already, but I think it's a somewhat underappreciated point because it means that this electron in the STEMNAT model chart, it doesn't exist. We've never seen it. The electrons that we actually observe, they always have a cloud of photons around them. This idea is called gauge symmetry. So we have light because we have electric charges. You might then ask, well, why do we have electric charges? Physicists don't have a good explanation for this one. They've certainly tried. They've tried with unified theories and theories of everything, but none of those have really worked so far. Personally, I think the reason we have electrons is because it's the simplest particle you can think of. It comes from the simplest symmetry there is in all of mathematics, just this one phase. Indeed, getting the electrons and the light with them is the easy part. The difficult part is explaining all the other properties of the STEMNAT model. But regardless of how you look at it, gauge symmetries are how nature works. And that's why light exists.
Our external physical reality is a mathematical structure. That is, the physical universe is not merely described by mathematics, but is mathematics, specifically a mathematical structure. Mathematical existence equals physical existence, and all structures that exist mathematically exist physically as well. Observers, including humans, are self-aware substructures. In any mathematical structure complex enough to contain such substructures, they will subjectively perceive themselves as existing in a physically real world.
Thank you for walking down this mathematical journey with us.
God is beyond description, but me, I'm gonna go ahead and try. This is the analavos of the great hypersigil. Now, I just learned what those words mean, but rest assured the experiences and symbols contained therein are very, indeed, could be found if you ran past the site. Where was that though? This is analavos of the great hypersigil. Now I just learned what those words mean, but rest assured that the symbols and experiences contained therein are indeed very real. At the top we got Dieu au-dessous de tous, God above all. And that's just the understanding that to exist is to be embedded in a greater system.
The angels over our left and right shoulder represent the pros and cons, the proximity to and distance from God. After that, we got the power set, or power setting. The power set is ta mata mata. It is the knowing of what you already know, the taking of what you already have to produce a universal gain. It is Jocho. It is the focusing of a problem in a mindful manner and letting and interacting with the internal universal mathematics inside of you to put forth a universal gain. To power set is to exist. Après ça, tout le monde chez Dieu. Everyone and everything is in the house of God. Now, whether that thing is your dreams and accomplishments or your nightmares and machinations, all the stuff that shines in the sky and darkens the void, is within such a subset. Then there's the universal set, the place where everything's already worked out. And then from that, we take a little bit of nothing and a little bit of mystery or variability. And that element of nothing provides us with a lot of calculable gains. And that mystery element of X kind of gives us some range and some mystery. And those two together kind of work as our gauge symmetry in relation to the universal set itself. Then we got the force of intelligence. Any set embedded in a greater universe is going to actively resist the control and constraints it finds itself under in a way that increases its future freedom of action and actively overcomes the control and constraints that gave rise to it. And that's just causal entropic forces. That's just movement forward in the physical universe, period. And then we'll finish with basically what we started with. To exist is to be embedded in a greater whole. Outside that, there is nothing. Inside that, you got a lot with you. And for that, we thank goodness. For that, we thank God. For that, we thank power sets and power setting. We appreciate the all worked outness of the universal capacity of things. We appreciate the physical nature to overcome and get better and increase freedom of action. Tout le monde chez Dieu. Dieu au-dessous de tous. C'est tout. Paix soit avec toi, ainsi soit-il.
You're an honest answer. The other trick is to not use psychedelics, but you should try smoking. So smoking and cups of tea. I'll smoking what? Or cigarettes. Or I actually smoke a pipe. Cigarettes will do in an emergency. So there are certain manipulations of neurotransmitters. For the first time a doctor has recommended smoking. Yes. Well, I hope we have a select audience for this. Well, sir, continue. Could you finish up your thought? I'm sorry. You were saying the smoking of the pipe does what? Because I'm not the type of I don't smoke, and nor do I want to smoke. But you're saying that the smoking does. What was the purpose of the smoking? It's just a way of nuancing your neurotransmitters to control that synaptic gain, or the gain and the weight you for different parts of your belief updating. So it has the opposite effect of psychedelics, basically. And so that's why people like tea and have a cup of tea, calm down, stay calm, and carry on, or wherever it is. Nice cup of cigarette and cup of coffee. That'll sort you out. And it's because all of these drugs, the caffeine, the nicotine, they all act on the same kind of receptors and different levels in neuronal hierarchy that are responsible for setting that gate control and gating, doing the attentional and the attenuation aspects we're talking about. So it's just a way of getting physical control over your hierarchical belief updating. And be like you're a man. I would have thought that the caffeine would have the opposite effect of increasing your anxiety. Not necessarily, no. Well, it clearly depends. If you're very agitated, then that could certainly be the case. But if you are worried that you might be anxious and in fact you're not, then desensitizing certain interoceptive sensations that register that in fact you're not really, your heart isn't pounding, that'll actually calm you down a little bit. If it goes too far, then beta blockers will be another nice example of. That's what I used actually. All right. Oh, well, there you are. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes with skillful use, the use of a tobacco pipe can have the same kind of effects as a beta blocker. That's all I would say. All right, Professor.
All right, so what the Jeffrey Epstein emails are proving beyond a shadow of a doubt is that the entire system, the way that work is structured, the way that school is structured, the way that government is structured, the way that corporations are structured, the way that all the institutions are structured is to be integrated in a way that allows the smartest and most elite and most connected and wealthy to design and manipulate and control the whole thing from the top down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they've been doing this for hundreds of years at the very least, right?
Yeah.
At the very least, hundreds of years on record, right? And what we also know about the public school system is it's designed in a way where you can present the proof and what?
And
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. They
You
just deny
you
it.
still won't believe it.
Yep. They'll have the proof and they just won't see it.
Yeah.
They'll say, even if you showed me the proof, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's designed for people not to respond to stuff like the Epstein emails,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
And what is the whole thing about, dude? Look at that. The whole thing is this weird sigil of the only reason we got this dollar is because some asshole gave us this dollar. That's the only reason anyone's got a dollar.
Yeah.
It's because some asshole gave you a dollar.
Yeah.
Called it debt and said, you owe me. Not only that, for hundreds of years we've been knowing solutions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just don't participate. People did that through thick and thin.
Yeah.
And through all kinds of different levels. Maybe they didn't disengage as much as they'd have liked to, but
Right.
you know, they needed to stay alive. And, you know what I mean? We're in a different era now. But we can still do this. And we even have a more fertile ground to do this on.
Yeah.
This is just stop. This is any intellectual who can read English should know this at the very least when it comes to caring about what to do about the system.
Yes.
And if you got half a brain, this thing right here tells you exactly what church and state
Yes.
and institutional thinking is doing to you as an individual. If you believe in institutions, you can't read apparently, or you don't care about psychology.
Yeah.
We've been knowing this for generations. This is old news. Like this is like super old.
Almost 100 years old.
Yeah. And you read this 4 years ago
Yes.
when you was a little teenage girl.
Yeah.
And knew it completely then, right? Okay. Now, if you can read, you got no excuse, bro.
Yeah.
All right. So the Jeffrey So the Jeffrey Epstein system, that the elite mindset is controlling and designing without your consent or ability to defend against. Controlling and designing your very personality, your genetics from the inside out, bro. Your neuroconnectome, your epigenetic profile, the very ways in which you relate to what you think is physical reality, right? And people think God is. What does research show us about the ideas of God? Where does that come from? God's gonna seem like what to you? God's gonna reflect what? What does the research show? God reflects
God's
him.
gonna reflect you.
Reflect what?
Reflect your ideas.
Your own personality, right?
It's your own existence.
Your belief in God exactly mirrors your personality.
Yep.
Like that's just facts. And your personality is not your own. No. It is designed outside of your awareness and control and consent. But you have consented and remain consenting when you don't clean it up.
Yes.
You remain complicit, and it's your responsibility to clean up this Satanism that's within you, that's within the dollar, that's within the school, that's within every fucking man-made institution. Now, is mathematics man-made? No. Is physics, the entire fucking physical world, man-made? No. And even that has its limitations, right?
Yes.
And even that can point to something beyond itself, right?
Definitely.
And that is the closest thing we got to God. The closest thing we got to God is understanding what math and physics is, and more importantly, what's beyond that. Not your whatever you think you're educated in. Not whatever you think God is. Whatever you think God is just a reflection of your own conditioning. We got research to prove that. It's not really hard to understand. Y'all are a bunch of fucking Satanist dum-dums, okay? We went to the fucking children's parade for Mardi Gras, and we saw a bunch of goddamn disgusting people embodying Jeffrey Epstein mindset. Right?
Yep.
The one of the happiest people, one of the best people we saw was Jared Shamont. Jared Shamo, my cousin, was one of the most sane, happiest people in the whole place. Another good person was Dusty. Jennifer Shamont's ex-fiance, Jennifer Shamont East, whatever her fucking name is. Her ex-fiance, Dusty, was happy he was waving at me and Jared like we were old family. And then when we saw Jennifer herself, she looked at us like we was all like, not even happy we were alive. Her husband was more happy to see me and Jared and waved at us and smiled more than she did. And she just looked like some kind of nasty, frowning, I don't know, even on her best day in her 20s, she was never more than a 6, but she'd like to think she's some kind of 10. She supports the Epstein mindset with her love of the Catholic Church, her love of money and banking, her love of the school system. That's all satanic. You know what the school system does? They make you do school picture day. What is school picture day? But filling a database filled with all the information going straight to the Jeffrey Epsteins of this world. You give Jeffrey Epstein pictures of your fucking kids. Y'all are fucking Satanists and disgusting. You know who else we saw? We saw Bo's daddy. Bo Guidry's daddy, and he was happy and smiling. You know who else we saw? We saw his little girl, and what was she like? Staring at us all, looking like she was possessed by a little demon. I don't know how to tell you, but she did not look happy. She was not nice. I don't know who you think you are, Bo, but your little kids aren't just good people. They're not nice little girls, and they're not going to grow up to be good people. I don't know who you think you are, Bo Guidry, but when you had kids at the beginning of your life, in your 20s, you were a disgusting man. You were a disgusting father. And yes, I pass judgment on you, and I give a fuck what you say. You take more drugs in a fucking month than I would ever care to take in my whole lifetime, Bo Guidry. You don't impress me, brother. I think you're disgusting. I think you're a piece of shit. Let's be honest, brother. You want to come at me with some dumb shit? I think you're a piece of shit. Let's be honest. Your kids ain't good. Your wife ain't good. Y'all work for money all the time. You wanna pray to the institutions? You wanna do what you think God's telling you to do? You know what God's telling you to do? What Jeffrey Epstein designed your stupid ass to know. That's exactly what God's telling you to do. And you know why you don't know that? Because you don't care to read. Let's see the 2 papers. 2 fucking papers that y'all's lazy ass, satanic pieces of shit can't read. Because you don't love math, you don't love physics, and you don't love God. And you definitely ain't acting like no fucking Jesus Christ. Y'all are a bunch of fucking punk pussies, and I'm tired of it.
The first paper, look how long it is. Can you see what that says?
Mm-hmm.
Look how long it is. Look. And this will explain incompleteness and power setting to you in ways that, oh my God. This, y'all are stupid. Y'all are fucking stupid and disgusting. You can't read this much, bro, and start to get a grip on the nature of this physical world and the nature of mathematics and how reality works, bro. You don't care how reality works, but you want to clean it up. How disgusting is that? You are a part of why reality is disgusting. Here's the second paper. Look how long.
Oh my God, look at all the homework you gotta do. Look, too much homework, Mommy. Too much homework.
I think we should just read the Constitution. You know how complicated and stupid and satanic the Constitution is? I'm not saying there's not a few fucking tidbits of whatever in there, but this shit is way less complicated and more fundamental than the fucking Constitution or whatever it is you think about anything. This is more fundamental than physics itself. This is more fundamental than most calculable mathematics.
Yeah.
This is more fundamental than what you think, you stupid ass. This proves limitations that are very real, that most people don't pay attention to, that act like they just can ignore and remain satanic. Is that not the truth?
Yes.
Okay, well, look, I'm sorry I said what you said, but I do think you're a piece of shit. I do think you're drug fueled. I do think your children are disgusting and not nice people. Anytime we spend time with them, were they just completely nice and good? No, bro. And you'd like to think, oh, comparatively, because other little minions are way worse, my little minions must be okay. Nah, bro. Your children ain't good. The children of this world ain't good. And y'all are all complacent and complicit in the fucking thing. And y'all want to act like I ain't got nothing to offer? Y'all are a bunch of pieces of shit, bro. You act like I ain't worth. You think my wisdom? You think I'm talking about my wisdom? I didn't write these fucking papers, bro. I didn't write these fucking books. And I definitely didn't make up this fucking dumb shit right here. This is made up dumb shit. Y'all don't even know how numbers work and y'all count ones all the time. Y'all don't know how numbers work and you count ones all the time. Is that not stupid?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, the public school system and modern human management, including especially how work is managed, right?
Yeah.
Is built to draw out the worst of you.
Yeah.
And gives you completely complicit in the most satanic things you can imagine.
Yes.
So eating and fucking babies, that's your gig. That's y'all's gig. That's y'all's gig. Y'all support this shit? Y'all are eating and fucking babies, straight up. Energetically, spiritually, and actually. What do you think you allowed Jeffrey Epstein to do?
Yeah.
What do y'all think y'all are allowing the Jeffrey Epsteins of this world to do?
Yeah.
You think fucking school picture day is cute, huh? Have you ever had a school picture day in your life?
No.
Nope.
Never.
Nah, bro.
No.
Nah. But I'm sure, I'm sure y'all can just keep the blinders on and remain satanic. You know what I mean? Now, I didn't mean to call out those people specifically. I don't give a shit about Bobo. Your kids are great compared to a lot of people's minions. Yeah, you're right. Good job, brother. And Jennifer Shaman, oh, you're a wonderful person in the community with all your helping family services out and all the nonprofit stuff she does, right? Y'all are disgusting, bro. Y'all are complicit in some of the most disgusting crimes in human history. And in this life or the next, your feet will be put to the fire, whether I like it or not. I could care less. I wish nothing but blessings on all y'all. I think y'all are dumb because you don't care to read. I think y'all are satanic because you don't love mathematics, physics, or God more than you love yourself or your own ideas. And it's just gross. I don't even care about my own ideas, do I?
No.
I don't even care. I'm pointing to other people's shit, ain't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but y'all wanna act like I'm not saying anything worthwhile. And I'm not saying, oh, Josh. I'm saying, y'all ain't taking the time to read this, and you're not gonna, because you're scared and you're pussies. And even if you did, you'd be like, ooh, because you go to school.
Yeah.
Because you in school. You support the system. You want the system to work out.
Yeah.
You hope the system works out because you use the system.
Yes.
You use the system. Whoever you are, you use the system.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the system serves you. And that has nothing to do with God, because God says you can't have two masters.
Nope.
You can't have two masters. It's either God or nothing, you dumb shits. It's either God or nothing. And God is beyond all this shit that you think is real.
Exists.
Yeah. It's minimal existence, and it doesn't have actual existence mathematically or integrationally, does it? It's feed forward, subconscious, with the impetus to control and predict built into it. Bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bullshit, it's fertile ground.
Yeah.
We appreciate the fertile ground. But just know that to anyone who sees anything with God's help, sees that all of y'all's machinations as just fertile ground for God to come through one day.
Yeah.
So it ain't nothing but blessings. Peace.
Peace.
Update on the roof. Check it out real quick. Papa came through with some more of this paper so we could nail it down for the umpteenth thousand pound. But it definitely stops the leaks for now. Pretty soon here I'm about to get me an old boot and just go beg on the side of the highway for a nickel and see if I can get something done. I'm pretty sure I can get a free estimate or two to see exactly what we need. But I have to apologize for not having the money to do it myself, because what y'all don't understand is I really don't fuck with this Epstein shit. I know you think that your job is cool and your teachers are nice, and I'm sure they are. I'm sure your boss is great. But I don't think you know what the Federal Reserve is. I don't think you know what money is. I don't think you know anything about the people who are designing this thing from the top down to make you think you know what you know. They do all of this on purpose. And they know exactly what they're doing. And they should be held accountable. And you are most likely being duped to some degree. I'm not saying don't do what you can and what you do, but I personally have chosen to be willfully non-compliant and stand on my God-given rights to pursue happiness. The very nature of optimal human functioning, which is described in what we know about psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology, what we know about complex mathematical systems and how they optimize in a complex environment, what we know about Markov blankets and Bayesian mechanics and how like observers optimize each other and inference devices and all this other stuff. All this stuff is more or less set in pure understanding. It's provable in court, and we've been practicing it for a long time. Now, is there any money in it? Hell no! Hell no, there ain't no fucking money in it. You're fucking right, there ain't no fucking money in it. Sorry I don't have no fucking money. I don't think you understand that if you're fucking with money, to some degree you're supporting the fucking Epstein network. The Epstein network has its little tentacles in everything in all Silicon Valley, and all of the entertainment industry, and all of the high finance, and all of high society, conscious research level physics and math. It's got its tentacles in every fucking, on down to fucking pre-K, on down to fucking fresh start, or whatever the fuck y'all doing these days, bruh. Like, I apologize. I know to some degree a lot of y'all might have to fuck with the system. I get it. I personally do not. I don't. And I'm sorry. I'm fucking poor because of it. I could use some help with this fucking roof. But I don't think Jeffrey Epstein or none of the systemites got enough extra nickels to throw my way to help me get a fucking roof so we can do things that benefit. How does what we do benefit the community? You might wonder. Not just because we help. I mean, when we moved in this neighborhood, there was meth heads all around. There was several groups of meth heads in a rent house over here, and we won't say too much, but anyway, the neighborhood is now mostly good, right? And crime free, right? I mean, people doing their own time is their own business, but I mean, ain't no big fights here. And there ain't nobody doing meth in the open like they used to do. They used to cough out loud and do meth out in the open within earshot of children playing all day and night. Don't do that no more. And we didn't go over there and force them to stop. No. By being consistent and living how you know to be true, you genuinely send out waves of influence that help people come together more, do less drugs,
feel more empowered and valuable. And all the ways that manifest through economics or less trips to the fucking emergency room. There's a very real effect when you choose to stand on business that happens to the local, non-local kind of, you could call it energetic effects, but shit, there we know about electromagnetic fields. It's not like a joke. We're not talking about like vibes here. I mean,
Yeah.
we are, but it's not as retarded as that sounds.
No.
But what we do is important, and we've had plenty of people thank us for doing what we do.
Mhm.
I've had moneyed men from Wells Fargo tell me, man, I can't tell you how much money I would give up to have a year straight with my child at 9 years old.
Mhm.
Especially when we were just to have a year straight, like neither one of us got work or school to do, and I got a year straight with my 9-year-old, that's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars to a person who's got billions of dollars, stupid.
Mhm.
And I'm just acting like I got it already, which is how the good book tells you to pray. Pray as if you got it already. Well, I think we got plenty here. We throw away more food than we could eat as a nation. We got more houses than all the poor people could live in as a nation. We got more money than we could count if we had a gazillion years to try to count it one by one.
Yep.
So I don't know why I should work for a house when there's too many houses. Food when there's too much food. Money when there's too much money and it's made up and connected to satanic cults.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't do that. I'm willfully non-compliant. Sorry, that's been done for hundreds of years. Not only that, I have rights, God-given rights that I don't have to explain to you. We could talk about the pursuit of happiness and the right to life, liberty, and justice, but I don't have to explain it to you. That's been explained plenty.
Yep.
I'm not here to explain nothing to you, other than, hey, roof's not leaking. We were able to pin it down for the umpteenth thousand time, and pretty soon you'll see me on the highway with a boot saying, you got a nickel? So let me tell you why I'm saying fuck Dan Hughes and his daddy, James Hughes. About 3 years ago, I guess, old James Hughes got a fucking house down the road, a second or third house down the end of our road. And when I saw him back then, hey, if you need any help, man, let me know. I did that and the other. We should have food sometime, get together and eat, right? I'm, hey, that sounds awesome. And then I don't know if he talked to his son Dan, which I don't talk to, I hadn't talked to in 20 fucking years. And he told him whatever, but now every time in 2026, James Hughes is going down the road, he's looking at me and my family all fucking crazy. Like he don't know who we are, or if he does, he kind of stares and looks weird, or like I don't know what, I'm trying to understand what the fucking man's problem is. But I do have a problem with his fucking son. Let me tell you why. After I was hit by a drunk driver and had to watch my fucking best friend be killed by a fucking stupid college-age drunk driver, I had 2 roommates who used to love driving around drunk for fun. One of them was Dan Hughes, and the other one was John Paul Guidry. And they would get drunk and drive around for fun. Another thing that Dan would do is when he would get blackout drunk, he would love to womanize young women and act like he's gonna date them forever and marry them, and then fuck them when he's blackout drunk, and then the next morning treat them like they're fucking crazy and use me to try to escape from their house real quick. Several times I had to follow him to the girl's house so he could bring their car back because he just got out of there using their car, or had to pick him up at some fucking stranger's house. Seeing some girl basically being broken, thinking she had a future husband, but really she just had some little 5'4" fucking little turtle boy who loves to take his shirt off and talk shit when he's blackout drunk. He's started several fights that I've had to fucking be involved in. He also started fights so bad, taking his stupid little shirt off as a 5'4" little man, and got so bad that he got people killed in Texas. He got people killed over starting shit with people he should have never been talking shit to. Like, he's a dangerous dude. He was disgusting to women. He womanized them, convinced them that he was going to marry them just to fuck them, and then the next day treated them like they were crazy, and then would use me all the time to pick them up. A couple of times, one time I had to pick him up. He called me, he was like, man, can you come get me? I was driving around drunk, going the wrong way down a one-way, and now I'm in this old man's yard who's trying to cut his grass right now. And I would go pick him up, jump his car, help him drive it home. And it's like, what kind of level of hell is this? I had to be hit by a drunk driver, watch my best friend die by a drunk driver, and now I got to be roommates with a couple of drunk drivers. And not only was Dan a piece of shit in this manner, but in his little journal, he wrote how Josh is trying to use weed to control my mind, and every time we smoke, he freaks me out, which usually most of the times we smoked, he was blackout drunk, would fucking roast it. Nigga never gave me $5 or nothing, or any money for the $20, $30, $40 of weed he would smoke that evening. He never paid for shit and always roasted and then forget anything even happened. So the few times we did smoke when he was decently sober, I would fuck with his head. Oh, fuck you. You're crazy. You don't know what's going on. You have no clue what God is. Yeah, I would fuck with him because I think he's a piece of shit. And in his journal, Josh is trying to control my life with weed in mind. No, I ain't trying to control your life. When Dan was under his own volition as a grown-ass man, he chose to fuck people and lie to people. He chose to start fights and get people killed. He chose to drive around drunk for fun. And this is what most college-age men do. Y'all are all fucking Jeffrey Epstein pieces of shit. Maybe you didn't eat and fuck kids, but you definitely fucked over women and got people killed. It's not a joke and it's not funny. I don't think y'all sons were good because, well, I guess Dan's cool because, what, he's a massage therapist or something, or he's a sports therapist. Ooh, good, yay. Far away from sulfur. Definitely brain drain on Louisiana. Someone who could have been a use to this community definitely took off. He had a brother he had a Down syndrome brother he should have been helping take care of. And as soon as he could, he got out of there to make sure he didn't help. That's the kind of man Dan Hughes is. And James Hughes, I don't know what your problem is, brother, but you need to be careful because you driving up and down my street looking at my family weird, and I don't appreciate it, brother. I don't think we deserve that. I don't know what your problem is. The last time we spoke face to face, hey, it's all nice. But then when you're riding your fool around, you want to give us the side eye and look weird, bro? I don't know who you are looking at me weird like that. And this ain't no threat. I ain't threatening you. God's got your back. God bless you. I'm just saying, I think your son's a piece of shit, and I don't know what your problem is. But I don't appreciate the way you're looking at me and my family when you drive by my neighborhood when we're outside in our church, in our school, in our home. Thank you, sir.
On a lighter note, check out some shit my daughter drew. Peace.
Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. wishing I was fishing. I stays up in the kitchen, cooking cornbread, cabbage head, black eyed peas and all the rest. Family fed with the best, abundantly blessed, I must confess. A family that plays together, stays together. A family that builds together, lasts forever. A family that runs together, wears the weather, whether it's limbic, resonance, vagal tones, or psychoneural, immunological home. Now go ahead and bounce to that. Now go ahead and face the facts. Undecidability of the spectrum. Yeah, you add a single particle to any size bumper, matter dramatically changes properties and zap. Now you got something new, it's like that. Straight acting the fool with a magic hat. Computationally irreducible tools. The universe is a school. Gerdell transcends the rules, and now we back. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Outside time, space, hanging out with the photons. How I live my life. Now if you can appreciate the stresses of life, your body responds in kind, strengthens mind and shares light. Shout out Kelly McGonigal, research phenomenal. We talking non-denominal, can't stop it. Now adding micro moments of shared positivity and limbic revision towards a life of longevity, biological supremacy in this world of infinity. If you got a clue, then maybe you can see the light in your enemy. Come on, tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Outside time, space, hanging out with photons. How I live my life, be tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Tiptoeing, I be stepping lightly. Outside time, space, hanging out with the photons. How I live my life, be. Alright, come on, man, help us out, girl. This is what go team. Come on, we go team.
Go team. Ready? You're top.
Come on, help. Go team.
Kisses? Give me kisses. Good. Give me kisses?